Welcome back to another Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Meade, and joining me as always, he wrote the screenplay for the mid-90s cult classic Hackers, my brother Mike.
You think I'd be sitting here if I wrote an epic film like Hackers?
I think the guy who wrote the screenplay for Hackers is probably sitting somewhere recording a podcast right now.
Well, I don't know who that person is, but after writing a brilliant piece of work like that, I hope he went on to do other great things because that movie is awesome.
It is awesome, but it receives no love at the box office and nor from critics. I don't know what was going on in the mid-90s.
Idiots. That's what critics are. Idiots.
Fools.
Johnny Lee Miller, brilliant. Matthew Lillard, brilliant. Angelina Jolie, brilliant. All of them were brilliant in that film. Just a fantastic movie on the dangers of the internet, which I think we're all
captures the visuals of the internet like Hackers. It's a totally different. It's like somebody accidentally swallowed a ton of acid or something. I don't know. It's very odd. And so yeah, you should see it if you've never seen it. It's called Hackers. It's a brilliant film. Mike had a large hand in its production. We know that. On this week's episode of Royals Weekly, the baseball podcast, we're going to review a sad week of Royals baseball. It was not tremendous as they took losses to both the Twins. Was it the Twins? Now I can't even remember.
Mm-hmm. Twins.
And then the Rockies. Sorry, I got caught up looking for Apple Podcast. I forgot to check to see if we have a new review.
You're so good at this.
I'm really not.
I hope the Hackers guy is as just talented at hosting a podcast as you.
He's not. I promise. After that, we're gonna spend most of our time today discussing the Royals trade deadline activity, and because we decided to delay the episode. Those of you who normally watch or listen every Monday morning may notice we're not going to come out till Tuesday morning this week because we wanted to get the trade deadline in. It ended 4 hours ago now, and so we'll have plenty to talk about, or maybe not much to talk about, depending on how you're looking at it, and plenty to say. Let's just say that about the Royals trade deadline. And of course, we'll preview this week's games as the Royals have a homestand coming up here this week. If you'd like to hear more from us, more fun Royals analysis, more lewd content like we produce, as some people think, then go ahead and subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. $5 a month gets you 2 extra episodes every week. Mike, I've been loving the new Mike's drops. I've been listening to them. They're wonderful. Mike does a solo episode on Fridays. We do a midweek episode together. And then I write an article every weekend for everyone. And then sometimes we write extra stuff as we sort of have time. So if you're interested in that, $5 a month, it helps us out a ton to produce the show. And we really appreciate everybody who's participating over on Substack. If you can't do that, make sure to rate and review us everywhere. We like the thumbs ups. We like the 5 stars. I would read an Apple Podcast review if we had a new one. We do not. And so we'd love to hear more from people through Apple Podcast reviews. We like to read those right here on the episode. So if you can do that, go ahead and do that as well. Helps people find the show, helps us get up those rankings so we can, spread our influence as far as possible. I'm looking to take over at least a state, if not the whole country.
Just a section of the country would be nice.
Yes. Like that one guy took over half the state of Michigan there for a while. This was back in the long time ago now.
1800s. Yes.
Yes. Back in the 1800s. Let's kick off the review of last week like we always do. We're going to do that with roster news, right? There was some significant roster news last week. Not happy. It typically isn't happy because it usually means somebody's getting hurt, and that's how it started out. Luinder Avila was put on the 15-day injured list with right forearm tightness. Oop, that's scary. As a result, the Royals selected the contract of Aaron Bummer. Not the best name to have if you're a pitcher, frankly. You can just see the negative headlines. Put up a bummer in his first outing, too.
I was going to say, it was a bummer.
But, Michael, what are your thoughts on Avila to the 15-day IL with forearm tightness and Bummer up to the major leagues?
It took everything in my blood not to write down a bummer joke here, and then you just lay it out there. Okay,
buddy, we're taking the 2-foot putts. We're taking the 20-foot putts. We're taking every joke we got. We're taking. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think we missed the green many times, but this is just a kick in the biscuits with a steel-toed boot. But the good news is we're already numb down there. So
numb down there all season
for a long time, and so it sucks because no matter what you think of Luinder Avila, especially in his usage as a starter this year. Looking into next year, he has to be at least in the plans for some part of your pitching staff. You get 13 guys. He was going to be probably one of those 13. And so that sucks, especially when you hear right forearm tightness. And you called it. We were texting back and forth in the game during that you said, I think he's hurt. And, he ended up going on the IL the next day. And so, yeah, real huge bummer. Hopefully it's minor. Hopefully it's a forearm strain or something like that. But, oftentimes the forearm tightness and things like that leads to bigger issues. And so hopefully they can get him back. And, I've spoken on the Mike's Drop episode last week about what his role will be next year. And could he possibly be in addition to the bullpen next year, see him in a little bit role that may fit him a little bit better, but fingers crossed it's not a long-term issue here.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because right now it feels like there's just no rock. Everybody keeps asking, is this rock bottom? It's like, feels like there's no bottom, honestly. Like,
feels like, you just can't hit bottom.
You cannot hit bottom at this point. Like, with every injury they have, I think they have to start reconsidering whether 2027 is a realistic notion. I mean, we hear JJ Picollo come out and be like, well, we're revamping for 2027. We're prepared to win in 2027. We're going to make it in 2027. Really? Are you? Like, half of your top 9 starting pitchers are going to be down to at least start 2027 and won't be able to throw more than 100 innings in 2027. And so what are we talking about here? Like, I'm sorry to say it, but Ryan Bergert's not going to be back for the start of the season. If Kolek's down with a UCL thing, he's not going to be back for the start of the season. If this is a UCL, he's not going to be back for the start of the season. They're just not going to have very many guys who are viable starting pitchers. And we've seen how bad this team is when it doesn't have that solid foundation of pitching. They don't have the offense needed to, they're not top 3 offensively. They're not going to outscore opponents. They have to pitch well. And right now they don't have the bullets. And frankly, there's no prospect that they're going to get the bullets before 2027. It just does not seem realistic at this point. And so I'm curious, well, first off, we have to see the long-term prognosis. If it is just a tightness or something, fine. But it's getting tougher and tougher to say, hey, they'll be fine once they get through the injuries to start 2027. Getting harder and harder to say that, because we know what it's like to try and rely on pitchers who've been hurt. That's not a great sort of plan, frankly.
Well, and we know Reagan's isn't going to be back for a while. We know that you have got the 2 most reliable arms right now are, AARP members. Yep. And so that's never a great thing. And yeah, so I agree.
It's already clearly an age decline, right? Like, one of whom is already clearly not what he was, right? And so
for sure.
It's not a recipe for success right now.
It isn't.
Also, the Royals lost their starting first baseman in Vinny Pasquantino. He went on the 10-day injured list with right wrist soreness. The Royals recalled John Rave, so they'll probably have Jack Caglione play a little more first base, have Rave play the outfield, that sort of thing. Mike, what are your thoughts on losing Pasquantino to the injured list again and getting John Rave back up to the majors?
Yeah, Vinny's not losing that injury-prone rep anytime soon, and that sucks. Not only because you mentioned the formula for this team has to involve a solid to an above average at worst starting pitching or pitching staff as a whole. But if your offense is going to make you competitive in any way, Vinny Pasquantino has to be good. And he has not been on the field. And when he hasn't been good. Now, the question is this related to the hamate? Okay. He has his hamate bone, if I'm not mistaken, removed after he injures it. And now he's dealing with the wrist in the same hand, if I'm not mistaken, right? And on the same. And so,
there's an operation joke somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and can Vinny Pasquantino afford to be losing bones? The guy needs everything he's got to get that ball over the fence. And so I don't know if Vinny Pasquantino is going to be, a reliable major league player with the injury concerns. And then when he's in there, the lack of effectiveness. I just don't know. It was such a kind of a tight needle to thread with him, because he kind of always had to maximize the launch angle. He always had to pull the ball a bunch just to be a guy that you can play. And now with the injuries stacking up, I just don't know if he can thread that needle. I will say the recall of John Rave is something you and I are both happy about, because not only has he been good, but also we thought that he should be at least somebody that gets a look at the end of this year. Maybe it's just as a 4th outfielder moving into next year, but the way he looks to me, he looks like a pretty solid 4th piece to an outfield.
Yeah, I've loved what I've seen at the plate from Rave all season, really. And, his minor league numbers sort of bear this out as well. And they talked about it as a swing change that he made, like adding a toe tap and not doing a big leg kick anymore. And that's like, increased his ability to take pitches and get walks. And it's, I think it's, you look at his baseball savant page right now, dude is like, it's Tiananmen Square all over that thing. It's red as hell. It's all, you look at his bat speed. He's over 75 miles an hour on a bat speed. That's really well. And he's doing everything he needs to do. Hard hit rate, hitting the ball hard, running the bases well, legging out infield singles occasionally, like playing good defense. Excited to see John Rave. I think he might be a little bit of a late bloomer who is valuable for the Royals. And that's all they need. They need a lot of valuable players because right now they got a lot of holes to fill. And so, great to see that.
And honestly, he's walking at a rate right now, 8.6. That's good for John Rave. Like that's you really like that.
And he's really turned that around this year in AAA as well. I think he's at like 12% or something in AAA. He might go down a little bit in the majors because guys there just throw strikes more and they're not afraid to live in the strike zone with the type of stuff they have. But, great. If he can walk 8% or more, even 10% or more, and strike out around 25% or less, he's got pop, he's got speed, he's a slasher. I like what I'm seeing from John Rave a lot. The Vinny Pasquantino side of this, Vinny was a fun pipe dream for a long time, an 11th round pick, a guy who, has all the personality in the world, all the intangibles you want, and looked like he, put together a good plate appearance and could do enough around his lack of raw power to be offensively productive. But the injuries are just taking their toll. And at some point you can't have an inability to stay healthy on top of all of his other deficiencies as a player, right? Like at some point that becomes too much and you can't keep relying on him. And I think the Royals are going to have to look at him differently and say, we can't count on you to be our 3-hitter first baseman going into 2027 because 1, you start god awful every single year. And 2, you're hurt all the time. And, there's a cap on your offensive ceiling anyway, right? Like, not that he can't be productive for someone somewhere, but the Royals cannot put their faith in him in the way that they have in the past, I don't think. Another roster move that we're not going to dig into, the Royals recalled reliever Easton McGee, who you might remember they traded someone for, I think, at some point. I can't remember, right? But, he's a real fringe. They're essentially doing bullpen tryouts for the rest of the year. He's a guy who's going to get a look in the bullpen for the rest of the year to see if they could maybe salvage a few players from the roster they currently have before they head into the offseason for that bullpen. On the field, it was a pretty sad showing from the Royals last week. They went 1-5, dropping a series to the Twins, and then suffering what I consider an extremely embarrassing sweep at the hands of the Colorado Rockies, who most people consider the worst organization in baseball, right? Not that they're the worst team all the time, but they're the worst organization. They're often the worst team.
They're kind of both right now.
They're often the worst team. Not always. They're often the worst team, but they are the worst organization. And here's the real kicker. They lost by a combined score of 8-23 over those 3 games. Real sad. The last 2 were not at all competitive. It was gross. Mike, how'd you feel about that embarrassing monstrosity of a week from the Royals?
Well, I wrote this. This week is how I imagine hippies felt in the 1980s. And we can say this, our mother. Yeah, our mother was a hippie, or is kind of still a hippie, but they lived the good life in the late 60s and in the 70s. And then by the early 80s, the dream was over. Capitalism was in full swing and Reaganomics was, going gangbusters and, greed was good, Gordon Gekko said. And it was time to get a job. And that's not, that's what this feels like. It's like the dream is dead. John Lennon said, we want a revolution. The revolution is over, guys. The Royals are done. It's over. It's official. The Rockies series was the last nail in the pathetic coffin. Okay. And so that's how this week felt. And not that we didn't already know they were out of it and all that sort of stuff, but this is like, your house burns down and then your wife says, I want a divorce the next day. It's like, this is as bad as it gets. This is when people are like, I'm more interested in watching Chiefs training camp clips than I am. No shit. And we'll talk about that more later. But the crazy thing to me is like, you can see it. And I'm sure you see this on the social media accounts that you monitor for Royals Weekly. I'm seeing it on Threads. It's like, it's getting not just dark, not like depressed, oh, the Royals are bad. Like angry. It's getting angry. Like,
I
especially
muted all those people a long time ago. I don't ever see.
Well, there's just not many Royals people on Threads, and so I have to, I go ahead and listen to all of their concerns. I'm there for the people on Threads.
Mike's a man of the people. I am not a man of
right.
the people. I am an ivory tower elitist. So I like to stay up there in my ivory tower.
But they're calling for heads and jobs and teams. They're like, oh, you want to move to Nashville? Please, I'll help you pack. Like,
see, because I'm an ivory tower elitist, I get to just make words up. And so the word I made up is what I've made up before to describe last week is pathetic-sad, right? Because it was both pathetic and sad. Really rough to watch. And what's great is like I watch all the games. And so like I'll be like, for example, what was it? I guess it was Sunday's game. Yeah, Sunday's game, day game, trying to salvage a win from this Rocky series. And I'm sitting there on the couch watching this game, and the Rockies are up or whatever, and the Royals are struggling, and you just see nothing but what might be worse than like anger is absolute silence on the feed, where people are like, I don't want to watch the Royals, I don't want to talk about the Royals, I don't want to do anything with the Royals because they just make me sad, right? And that's what this last week was. They just made people sad. Mike, in a week where they made a lot of people sad, we still had a couple decent performers. Who'd you go with for your strong performer this last week?
I went with John Rave. We already talked about him a little bit. 6 for 14. He was the one who really looked pretty good in that Rockies series. 3 runs, 2 doubles, a home run, an RBI, no walks, but with just 1 strikeout. He's the guy we got to keep looking at. He's when you're looking for things to hope and dream on, it's young guys like Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione that you're hoping show a little bit more in the second half, or I guess in now August and September, and other guys that you weren't expecting to do those types of things, like John Rave, like the guy you're going to talk about here in a second. What do you have? And John Rave showed at least a little bit of something, especially for guys like us who do watch the games. You got to find something to watch for. and John Rave and those kind of guys are kind of the reason to watch at this point.
Yeah, I went with a guy who, not a completely dissimilar story to Rave, sort of a late bloomer maybe, but a guy who's definitely had value for the Royals this year. I mean, and
it's definitely really fun to watch.
Definitely fun to watch too. That's Tyler Tolbert. He went 6 for 16 last week, 2 doubles, 1 home run, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, 3 stolen bases. I'm guessing they got calls for him at this trade deadline. We'll never know because it's a black box over there at One Royal Way. But Tolbert just has a lot of value to a team. Been playing shortstop a lot with Bobby Witt Jr. out. Can play center field. Can play other outfield positions. Defensive replacement. Base running. Stolen base threat all the time. If you need a base stolen, he can give it to you. And then he's showing that he has a bat that can be competent in Major League Baseball. Like, you assumed it would fall off at some point, but remember, he had a weighted runs created plus over 100 last year in a limited number of at-bats. He definitely has one over 100 this year. And so, he probably has to be deployed in specific situations. Yeah, he's probably just a role player, but a role player who can get you 2 to 3 F4 is a very valuable role player. Wouldn't shock me. We remember in the height of Gerard Dyson, in his peak, he was 2 to 3 F4 as a player who was just playing off the bench, stealing bases, playing great defense, and that sort of thing. I think Tolbert could be a similar level of value, at least between 1 and 2 F4. And that's something that really matters if you're a team that actually is keeping games close and in competition for something. There were plenty of weak performers to choose from. Lots of guys out there who did not play very well. Mike, who was your weak performer for last week?
Before we do week performer, I do want to give a shout out to a guy I thought you were going to choose. Noah Cameron had the start of the year for him.
Oh, yes,
we blew it,
yes, he did,
but he had the start of the year this week. Went 8 innings.
Last 2 outings where he's calling his pitches, he's thrown 15 innings, no runs.
Yeah, yeah, he's done great. Well, 1 hit. He gave up 1 hit in this last one, 8 innings. Carried a no-hitter into the 6th or 7th. I can't remember which one. So shout out to friend of the show, Noah Cameron, for his best start of the year. Weak performer for this week is the guy that you claimed, and I will never let you live this down for the rest of this year until he actually becomes one. You claimed was a superstar already.
He's going
Carter
to be
Jensen.
A superstar. You
said he was already a superstar. You jinxed him is what you probably did.
He'll get there.
Carter Jensen, just 3 for 24 this week. 4 runs. He had the most at-bats on the team, by the way. 4 runs, 1 double, 1 triple, 1 home run. The 3 hits he had were all extra bases. That's good. 2 RBI, 3 walks to 10 strikeouts. the maturation, it takes guys sometimes, and he's not having a terrible year or anything. He's got an OPS over 700, but he's not in that superstar level. He's not fighting for, rookie of the year like a lot of people thought that he would. He is having a solid year. Hopefully we see a step up either late in this season or to begin next season, because Carter Jensen just needs that consistency. He'll have those weeks where he carries the offense, and then he'll have weeks like this one.
Yeah, I'm happy with what he's done so far, but I would love it if he put on, like, if he really took off here in the last couple of months and showed us, okay, I've started to adjust, especially to that high fastball that they were throwing him. They've been throwing him that high fastball for like a month now, and he just can't do anything with it. He swings too much at it, and he just can't get it. He can't get his bat up to the top third of the zone, and that's something he's going to struggle with until he learns how to deal with it. Michael Massey is my week performer for last week. We've said Massey in this slot multiple times just because he's a fairly streaky hitter, a guy who's going to have some hot weeks and some really off weeks. This was one of the off ones. 2 for 19, 0 extra base hits, 1 RBI, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. Not a great week for Michael Massey. We talked about him as a potential trade piece at some times, or I've just heard him talked about it in that way. I wouldn't have really complained if they had traded Massey, because I think he's probably at peak value right now, right? Because he's got multiple years of control left, because he's having a fully healthy season, because he plays great defense at second, because he's over league average as a hitter. I think this is as good as Michael Massey gets, and this is as valuable as he's going to be. If I were the Royals, I would have been looking to move him, because you have other assets that could potentially take his place in Nick Lofton, in Tyler Tolbert, in some others, right? And so in AAA right now, and Jack Pineda, and stuff like that. And so
Jack Wilson, or not Peyton Jack Wilson. Peyton Wilson. Thank you.
Yeah. And so that was a thought that I had, that I kind of wouldn't have been unhappy had they moved him.
I would have loved that too, because I think when you're talking about hitters like Massey, this lineup just has too many of them. You can have a couple of streaky hitters in your lineup and stay a consistent offense, but you can't have as many as they have. They need to start shipping guys like Massey out to provide some stability for the lineup.
And frankly, he'll be more valuable in other places. Like, you put him in a place like Yankee Stadium, you put him in a place where, he can pull the ball out to right field more easily. He's even more valuable for those teams. And so I think they should have probably looked to move him. They didn't. They don't listen to me. They definitely should, but they don't. And so, here's where we are. Mike, what was your theme in a week that really just lent itself to a lot of darkness?
Yeah, I went with one that I think we may have used in the past, and possibly in this exact same situation.
I think so.
But it's
and what's interesting is it definitely fits with your notion of like,
you notice I put those together. Mark's saying the notion that, I bet it feels like you're a hippie in the 1980s, because this is from a hippie singer-songwriting legend, Jackson Browne, who Mark and I are both big fans of. It's from his great song and album, also same title, The Pretender. It's, "Are you there? Say a prayer for the pretender who started out so young and strong, only to surrender." Classic words from Jackson Browne, and it feels like the white flag has been waving in JJ Picollo's hand at this point. And he's saying, okay, we're done. We've had it, and let's cash it in. Not that they really made the moves that they should have. We'll get into that later, but it feels like the team that was playing in Colorado has more than given up.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, maybe JJ is one of the only ones who doesn't realize that that's the case, because he's like, we're going to come back in 2027. Okay, right. Sure. A lot of teams lose 98 games and then make the playoffs the next year when they have the exact same roster. That happens all the time. Right. So I went with one that is dark to some degree. I mean, it comes from the Dark Lord himself, honestly. Lord Voldemort is the person who said, the character anyway, that said the line that I'm making my theme for this week from the Harry Potter series. I believe it comes from the 4th film and maybe the 4th book as well. Lord Voldemort, if you'll recall, has just been substantiated, I guess, in the graveyard. Mike, I don't know if you've ever consumed any of the Harry Potter content. I don't know. I
have seen all of the movies and read all of the books. I'm not on your level. If you don't know, Mark is a Harry Potter scholar, and so he has read all the books multiple times.
That's how I knew that this line was in there. and so there's a moment where he's turning to all of the Death Eaters and he goes, "I confess myself disappointed." Right. That's me. That's me today, right? Especially today. And we're going to get into this in our next segment. Little teaser here. I'm disappointed with that trade deadline. I'm disappointed with how the season has turned out, of course, but I'm disappointed that they had a big opportunity at this trade deadline and they absolutely let it pass. That's a teaser. We're going after this break. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Word is spreading about the hottest realtor in the Phoenix area. This kid's got know-how. He's got drive. He's got the thoughtful care to help you secure your dream retirement home. And let's face it, Phoenix is a dream. Sun, golf, baseball.
Throw in a margarita machine and a mechanical bull, and you've recreated my 13th birthday party.
Originally, that joke was a lot weirder, and I decided to change it.
Wouldn't it be our 13th birthday party?
Yeah, well, no. In my mind, we separated. We celebrated separately. Eric Oxer ranked in the top 3% of agents in all of Arizona. Why does he rank in the top 3% of all agents in Arizona? Why? Because for Eric, it's not about him. It's about you. He's going to spend day and night grinding to find you the house of your dreams and get you the best price for it.
Maybe it'll have a mechanical bull in it. You should try for a mechanical bull in your house. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can find it, I say you go for a mechanical bull. Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. I'm just trying out different tunes, to try and get something. Be wise. If you're ready to make the move, let Eric make the experience all about you. The trade deadline has come and gone. The Royals completed a few minor transactions, but they didn't trade any players with control beyond this year, and they didn't even trade all of the trade chips that had expiring contracts this year. We'll get into that soon. But let's start by talking about who they did trade. We're going to sort of go trade by trade. It was announced Saturday that Lane Thomas and Bailey Falter would be heading to Atlanta for 24-year-old right-handed pitcher Lucas Braun and 23-year-old left-handed pitcher Carter Holton. Mike, how do you feel about this trade? It was kind of the centerpiece trade for the whole trade deadline. How do you feel about it?
Well, this one I actually feel like is a solid trade, right? I feel like this had to be done, and I feel like the return was about what you would expect. He's a rental player in Lane Thomas. He's only here for the rest of this year. You're getting his, I think at this a little bit more than $2.5 million left on his contract for the rest of the year. And so, he's been good, but not great. You're getting him out of here and bringing in a piece that I think is actually about worth what Lane Thomas is sending and fills somewhat of a need for next year. Plus, and this is something that hasn't been talked about a ton, you're also saving roughly $1.75 million for Bailey Falter's contract for the rest of the year. And that's what that was. That was a money dump for the Royals. That wasn't that the Braves needed Bailey Falter. Bailey
Falter will be DFA'd any day now.
Yeah, he's gone probably. Right. And so the Royals were like, hey, you take Bailey Falter's contract and we'll take a lesser prospect. But I think this is about the only solid thing that the Royals did.
Yeah, I liked it. I like the return. I think it's a value win trade. I think Braun represents, when we talked about what should they be doing during the trade deadline? I think we sort of settled after a few weeks on they need pitching and they need reliable pitching, right? They need somebody who's going to be durable. They need somebody who's going to pitch, who's going to, they don't need, it's impossible for them to get anything like a Cole Reagans or anything with any sort of ace upside. That was never in the cards because they don't have the trade chips to get that, at least not the expiring contract guys. Maybe if they had given up a Wacha or something like that, or even maybe a Massey, maybe, but you're not getting that for Lane Thomas. And so Lane Thomas, or 2 months of Lane Thomas rather, for that to get two pitchers back who, one of whom looks like a really solid floor, athletic guy, a guy who has a big arsenal, a guy who good command, throws strikes, and most importantly, has never been hurt in his entire professional career, has never been hurt. And so what are the Royals struggling with right now? Pitcher injury, right? And so they need a guy who they know they can give the ball every fifth day. And at the very least, he's not going to probably blow up on you. That's their hope, right? Does he have the best stuff in the world? No. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but they needed security, and that's what they sort of traded for. Yes, the other player, Carter Holton, is a little bit more of a lottery ticket, but they got some safe starting pitching back end starting rotation option in Lucas Braun. Mike, do you think that Braun is a good fit for what this team is and what it needs?
I think he is kind of what you described. He's a way to stockpile starting pitching depth for a team that now looks like they're definitely going to need it. And so he's already in kind of AAA. And so he's gone through all the minors. He's had success at every level of the minors. He will be competition for guys like,
Oh, and I will give you just some background on him. He's thrown about 95 innings between AA and AAA this year. He's got about a 3.5 ERA. His FIP is a little bit higher because he doesn't strike that many guys out, but he also doesn't walk that many guys. And so that's basically who he is in terms of a statistical profile. Yeah,
and he's competition for the back end, So, if Kolek's not coming back, then he's another guy to help fill that spot. Or if he's not back right away next year, depending on the extent of the injury. For Noah, he's competition for Noah Cameron and Bergert when he's available again, and Caderna when he's available again. Just another arm that you feel like is at some point going to get an opportunity to start for this team. For 2 months of Lane Thomas, if he's got a chance at starting in Major League Baseball and you give up 2 months of Lane Thomas for him, that's value added. Yes. And I think that's, and I've seen some stuff from Braves fans who are like pissed. They're like, why would you get Lane Thomas for that? A guy who looks like he can be a starter in Major League Baseball. That doesn't make sense. And so I do think this was a solid move. The other guy, we'll talk a little bit more about him. Carter Holton. I'm not as sold on him, but we'll get to that a little bit more down the road.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense for them. It's a perfect fit in many ways because this is exactly what they need right now. They need reliable starting pitching. They need durable starting pitching. Is he going to light the world on fire? No, he is not, right? Because he's got a 5-pitch arsenal, but they're all, even if you look at like the Stuff Plus, if you don't know what Stuff Plus is, it's basically just like a metric that rates how good pitches are. And 100 is average. Almost all of his are from like 92 to 100, right? So basically all of his pitches are average. Okay. Now, maybe the Royals can find him a little more swing and miss. Maybe they can do something with his slider. Maybe they could to increase his swing and miss. That's what they'll try and do. Give him a little bit more swing and miss in some way. And you've got yourself a really solid back end starter who you feel can probably throw a bunch of innings and probably won't get hurt. And that's really, really what they need because they got Noah Cameron. He looks like he might be that at this point when he's calling his own pitches anyway. And so if you can say, hey, to start 2027, we're going to have Cameron and we're going to have Braun in our 4 or 5 spots. We're probably going to have Wacha and Lugo in there. Then we only have to fill 1 rotation spot. Now, the fact that you still have to fill 1 is crazy because all their other guys are hurt. But, we'll see what they do to sort of fill out that rotation. Desperately need a guy like Braun at this moment.
Yeah, the other thing to kind of let you guys know, he throws, I think it's 6 pitches actually that he throws because I think he added a new one this year. But he's also he's a command first guy. So he's got what they call the best command in the Braves organization. And so that's kind of where he lives. I can locate the ball. It's not going to overwhelm you, but I'm going to be in the game. I'm not going to have blow up innings, that sort of thing for Braun. And I'm fine with that. I think you need a couple of those guys in every rotation. And so that's where you kind of hang your hat on for Lucas Braun.
And we've seen the Royals have success with these types of guys. I mean, Stephen Kolek is basically this type of guy, a guy who doesn't give up a bunch of home runs, keeps the ball in the strike zone, doesn't walk a bunch of guys, and lets the Royals defense eat, lets the Royals really good infield defense create plays behind him, and then keeps the ball in the yard. And then you're not giving up big innings. And so what has Braun done in terms of limiting damage? He has only a 6.8% walk rate across 2 levels of minors. That's very low. 6.8% is pretty low. So that's the sort of pitcher he is. His ground ball rate, I think he gives up, or he gets quite a few ground balls as well. He's gotten 42% ground balls in AAA this year. He's that kind of guy. Nothing special, but he's gonna limit damage. If you wanted to know, he was the MLB Pipeline's 8th ranked Braves prospect I think some other publications had him lower, but that's where he was for MLB Pipeline. Mike, you mentioned Carter Holton he's the less heralded of the two prospects, but he was a higher draft pick than Braun was, second round pick out of Vanderbilt. He has very little track record as a professional because he got hurt one start into his professional career. He had to go down with Tommy John. And so he's coming off Tommy John. He's played some this year. How are you thinking of him as a prospect?
I'm really not, honestly. I'm not real high on him. I think he's more of a throw-in guy. I would be surprised if he ever makes it to Major League Baseball. But I think there's a couple of things the Royals might try to do. I think a permanent move to the pen is probably likely for him, if not immediately at some point. I think maybe you try and focus on turning him into like a lefty specialist because his best pitch is a slider from the left side. And I think he might have a chance to really give lefties some trouble, but he's 23 years old and low A and has not thrived really this year or pitched much. From everything I've read about him, it's very much a heavy effort delivery from the left side. He's an undersized guy as well at only like 5'11". And so I'm not super sold on him coming back from Tommy John and that sort of stuff, but maybe there's a role the Royals can find for him where he can be successful and start moving his way through the system. But again, not real sold that he's an actual prospect, just another guy they got in the trade.
Yeah, I like him as a guy just because he is coming off Tommy John, and so you're kind of buying low on him. He's a buy low candidate, right? Coming off Tommy John, lefty, and so you kind of feel good that lefty reliever is kind of a floor for him. You're like, okay, if it doesn't work out starting, we could turn him into a lefty reliever, have him throw sliders against lefties, and he'll be fine. At 5'11", you sort of strikes you as is he a Kris Bubic type of guy who's going to have good induced vertical break on his fastball because it's coming from a lower slot. It's coming from a lower release point than it might if he were 6'7" or something like that. And so I'm curious to see what it looks like coming from him. It will probably take a while with him because he strikes me as the type of dude who's going to debut at 26 or 27, whether he figures it out as a starter or not and ends up becoming a reliever. I do think it's worth a shot though to get him as a throw in with this, because let's say it is Tommy John that's sort of affecting his, command or his stuff, and he gets back to where he was. All of a sudden, you got a second round pick out of Vanderbilt who looks like maybe he can throw for you. That's pretty good, right? You wouldn't mind that, even if it is just as a reliever. That sounds pretty good to me. If it has value, that's great. Today, it came out that the Royals were trading Kris Bubic to the Dodgers for 25-year-old right-handed reliever Carlos Duran. Duran is a tall, hard-throwing reliever who will get some Steven Cruz vibes, for those of you who see him, because he's so tall. He's got a 3-pitch arsenal, 4-seamer, slider, and sinker. I was surprised by this. Didn't think they'd be moving Bubic because he was hurt. Mike, what are your thoughts on this trade for the Royals?
Yeah, that's what I have written down, is honestly surprised they traded him at all. It's an interesting one because if you go look at some of his numbers, he's got good strikeout numbers, Duran, however you pronounce his last name. But he's got a guy who's been kicked back and forth. They traded him last year too, to the A's, and then the A's released him and he signed back with the Dodgers, and now they're trading him to the Royals. I think he's more of a guy that unless they change something or can figure something out, I don't know that he'll ever be a real effective major league reliever, but who knows? The pitching development guys have done some good things with guys in the past, and so maybe they're able to find the pitch mix that works for him, or add a pitch that works for him, and really change who he can be. But I'm not super excited for him. I think his ceiling is probably middle reliever, and that's not even something I see him reaching necessarily. So, but they got something for Kris Bubic. You might as well take a flyer.
Great to get anything for him. I think it's a good get for them just because we know he's got the strikeout stuff. He's striking out over 12 guys per 9 down in AAA right now. We know he has that strikeout stuff. You can see the numbers on it. The slider's his number one pitch down there. Right now, the numbers against his slider are insane. Nobody hits his slider. Slider's unhittable. 4-seam fastball, also pretty unhittable. The sinker, they hit a little bit more, but he only throws it 20% of the time. Maybe they changed that up a bit. His issue is he walks too many guys, right? And we've seen the Royals have at least some success with guys like Luinder Avila, with Steven Cruz, helping guys walk fewer people, right? And so if they can find a way to get him to a place where he's walking a fewer people, Maybe they got a guy who is a middle reliever. And frankly, this bullpen needs every legit middle reliever it can get its hands on. If you had 8 guys who were just solid middle relievers, this bullpen would be 10 times better than it is right now. But they don't have that. And so I think Duran is just going to get more audition, like, to see if he can be that guy. Like, and imagine we've talked about how, like, previously Steven Cruz, maybe Beck Way are the 2 guys who would be like, okay, we'd be okay to have you in the bullpen next year. They need more than 2, right? It takes 8 guys to fill out a bullpen.
It looks like Daniel Lynch will be there. I mean,
sadly, it does look like Daniel Lynch will be there.
Avila, you never know, You
don't know. I'm not counting on that at all. And so, we'll see. They need as many guys auditioning for next year's bullpen as possible. There was a tiny other move. I hesitated to even put it in here. Mike, breeze through it. I need an answer in less than 15 seconds if you're going to give me anything. The Royals traded prospect Manuel Colon to the Phillies for 28-year-old right-handed relief pitcher Nolan Hoffman. Hoffman was recently DFA'd by the Phillies, so this isn't a really big needle mover or anything. Mike, feel free to pass on this or just give me an answer in 15 seconds. One or the other. Go.
Seems to me like Hoffman is more of a solution for filling innings this year than he is for helping this team next year.
Good answer, actually. That's the only purpose I can see for this, because I don't imagine Hoffman will be a meaningful contributor in any way. Maybe, again, you can never count any pitcher out, especially when they're working with a development team like ours, which has shown some success developing guys. And so maybe they change something and get something out of them, but I think the odds of that are pretty long.
Gives real Quas vibes, by the way.
Good.
Serious.
Anytime you can
the way he throws too.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that sidearm delivery. Mike, let's talk big picture. How do you feel about the Royals front office's performance at this trade deadline? They made very few significant transactions and decided to hang on to any assets with control beyond this year. Do you feel good about how they did things?
No, I feel puzzled. Right? Puzzled in that, and I saw a couple stats on Threads from the good people of Threads. One of them was like Noah Cameron, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha starts this year. The Royals are like 22-44 or something. And those are the guys you're all bringing back to hang your hats on for next year's rotation. So, like, not that, like, I understand it's not necessarily their fault that the Royals are losing these games, but it also means that you don't have an offense or a bullpen that can support those guys. And so I don't get that. I don't get why you just stand pat with a team that's been this bad and think that next year, we're going to develop Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione enough to make the offense better. We're going to be able to fill Cole Reagan's spot when he's down for most of the year. It's truly puzzling, and let alone any sort of plan to build the worst bullpen in Major League Baseball. I see no clear way of doing that without spending big bucks in the offseason. Now, I think building the bullpen, especially if you do it from back to front, you go out and spend big money on a back end guy, and maybe you can find somebody to fill in that 8th spot, and maybe you go get a solid middle reliever guy. Then that does a lot for a bullpen. But this bullpen is so bad, and the offense still has so many question marks in it. And now with the starting rotation, like, I'm just really puzzled that JJ. Now, some people are speculating, hey, he's feeling the hot seat. He can't sell on 2027. He's got to still try and win 2027. I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer, but I'd be fine if they said, I think it was a failure of his, I guess I'm going to use a financial term, like fiduciary ability to say, hey, I have to do what's best for the organization, not necessarily what's best for JJ Picollo. And I don't know that he did that.
Yeah. I have just 2 terms to describe what this trade deadline was. Abject failure, right? Because you just mentioned it. I mean, who in their right mind loses 95 games and then says, let's run it back with the same roster, right? Because that's essentially what you're doing. This is one opportunity you have to turn over a roster that desperately needs turnover, right? Now, I'm looking at these transactions. I don't dislike any of the transactions. I think they got value wins for all the transactions they made. The problem was they didn't make enough transactions. The fact that you didn't get John Schreiber traded, right? You didn't get John Schreiber traded. He's on an expiring contract. He will not be back next year. Even if you're like, oh, we like him as a reliever. What does it matter? He's not back next year, right? Like, this is ridiculous to me. Insane. I get it. Maybe I would give them the benefit of the doubt if they traded Schreiber and like didn't trade Marte, because Marte may have no market, right? But like Schreiber had a market. I guarantee. In fact, I saw a tweet earlier, and I wish I could give this person credit. I'll try and find it really quickly. There was a report out like right before we started recording that said, who is that from? The Royals. That it said something. Somebody had interviewed JJ Picollo, and he said that about 75% of their players had interest. So it's not like there wasn't interest in the Royals. I'm sorry, I can't give credit to whoever that was. I'm looking for the tweet, but I cannot find it. Yeah, still can't find it. But this is case in point. Like, you had interest. There was I mean, at some like there was another report that they got a bunch of calls on Wacha and Lugo, right? Like, the fact that you're not taking this opportunity, and it's not like if you trade Wacha and or Lugo or Schreiber or Michael Massey,
Lynch.
it's not like that. Lynch, whoever. That doesn't mean you can't compete in 2027. In fact, you have a better chance to compete in 2027 if you get those guys off the roster, save the money you're paying them, and get the prospects in return, right? Like, if you trade Michael Wacha, right, or forget Wacha, if you trade Lugo, either one, you save the $18 to $20 million that they make that you can invest in free agency, and you get prospects in return. That's the only way you're competing in 2027. You need that kind of slingshot. You need that kind of home run swing, because otherwise you're not going to compete in 2027 rolling back the exact same roster that's going to lose 95 games this year. That's not going to happen. And so I don't know what he's imagining. This is the problem we always had with Dayton Moore, was that he never seemed to accurately understand his own team, right? That's what this looks like from JJ Picollo. It's just insane to me that he is not seeing that this team needs more roster churn than he is willing to give it, apparently.
The other thing, you say the exact same roster, but it will not be, because your 36-year-old catcher, or DH, is going to be a year older, and we've already seen age decline from him. Your 36-year-old pitcher in Seth Lugo, we've already seen those. You don't become a better pitcher in age 37 season. That's not how it works. And so,
also, your ace starting pitcher maybe will be back midway through the season. Maybe, we don't know, right? Like, may never pitch again.
Going on his third after his third Tommy John surgery.
Tommy John. He'll be gone too, right? Or we don't know what you can get from him, right? Like, and so, and by the way, your Stephen Kolek, one of your top 6 starting pitchers, may not be back until well into the season, right? Like, there's so much uncertainty and so much going against this roster. The fact that he's unwilling to turn it over is madness. You're just delaying your competition window another year, right? Like, so yeah, let's say all the stuff he wants to go right goes right in this offseason and then for the or whatever, right? Like, let's say it all goes right. How many games do you think they win next year?
Everything goes right.
75?
If everything goes right, they probably win 80, and they miss out on a wild card by 2-3 games.
That's if everything goes right.
So everything goes right.
That's if everything goes right. Crazy. Crazy missed opportunity at this trade deadline.
You want to know another reason why it's crazy?
Why?
Right now, the Royals have exactly one player with an OPS over 800. One. And that's one. Bobby Witt Jr., and that has more than like 100 at bats. That's Bobby Witt Jr. And thinking that that's going to change just because of magic or something, insane.
Magic, right? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I can finally give this guy, Rob Collins is the guy's name, who came out with that. And interestingly, I watched a clip from the interview that they did with JJ Picollo, or that he did with JJ Picollo, and Picollo is attempting to defend this this position, this like not trading Wacha and Lugo. And it's interesting to me that he immediately after the trade deadline, JJ Picollo decides to do this interview where he's like, I'm going to defend my tactic here at the trade deadline because I know people are pissed about it. And it's like, yes, we're pissed about it. It's obviously dumb. What do you want from us? It's obviously dumb. You think this 70-win roster is going to turn into a 90-win roster via magic. That is obviously dumb. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
I've reached that point in my life where that's my line. We're going to have to cut that. We're going to have to start over. People on YouTube, you get to see a look behind the curtain here. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
I've reached that point in my life where I'll give pretty much anything to not have to work on my own house anymore.
Yeah, I'm just, it's all worn. It's worn me down. Home ownership has worn me down. If you're wise like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf for all your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator. It gives you a free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information. Window Wolf is making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time only, you can get 50% off when you book using their instant price calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com. That's windowwolf.com and use the code ROYALS50. That's ROYALS50, no spaces, when using that instant price calculator, and save big bucks on quality service.
Yes, just tell me what the price is. This doesn't have to be some long, drawn-out relationship. We're not planning prostate surgery after all.
No, just enter the information. Boom, you get a price. Simple. Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. The Royals had an off day today, that's Monday, followed by the 6-game homestand with 3-game series against the Twins and Cubs here at Kauffman. Both teams are much better than the Royals, so we know that as a baseline. Both teams are much better, and both teams were buyers at this trade deadline, so they'll have some new players coming to join them. But the question is, how much better are they? Mike, fill us in on the Twins and how much better they are than the Royals.
Well, they're a lot better than the Royals, but not so good that they're guaranteed a playoff spot at this point. They are 56 and 57 right now, which is good for third in the AL Central. If you remember, they did full-on fire sale. I think that was last year, wasn't it? Full-on fire sale last year.
It didn't really change their outcome. Like, it didn't really, they played exactly the same, basically, in the second half.
Mm-hmm. But interesting, because we just saw them. So in game 1, it will be Royals pitcher of the month in July, Randy Dobnak, versus Joe Ryan, who we just saw.
Is what you mean.
Royals ace, yes. Royals ace Randy Dobnak versus Joe Ryan, who we saw last week and I've seen so many times in his career with the Twins. He's a 30-year-old righty out of Cal State Stanislaus, which I feel like I've seen said a million times on this show.
I've never said it in my life until we started doing the show and he started pitching, and now I've said it like 80 times.
Exactly. He's got a 3.52 ERA and a 1.11 whip. He's a very good pitcher. He's got one of the best fastballs in Major League Baseball, 4-seamer at 93 to 94 with a sweeper, a splitter, a curveball, a sinker, and a slider. He did 6 innings with 4 earned runs in the last inning against the Royals, which is pretty good for the Royals, honestly, against him. He's an elite strike thrower with really good extension, 5% walk rate for him. He's a tough guy to score on, so hopefully they can get some runs across. We'll see. Having just seen him, I would hope you kind of know what's coming. Game 2, we'll see Noah Cameron on his little hot streak here versus Dean Kramer, the 30-year-old righty out of UNLV, the Runnin' Rebs, with a 6.50 ERA and a 1.36 whip. Interestingly enough, 6.50 ERA, you would think the Royals would crush that, but they just got a complete game pitched against them with a guy with an over 7 ERA. So, you never know. Kramer, though, has a splitter, a 4-seamer at 93 to 94, a sinker, a cutter, a curveball, and a slider. He was just traded from the Orioles, where I feel like he's been for a while. 4.93 expected ERA for Kramer, so he's doing a little bit better than his actual numbers. Hitters are absolutely killing his fastball, which is probably why he's throwing his splitter so much. We will see what they can do against Dean Kramer in game 2 of that series. The final game of the series, we'll see Michael Wacha versus Bailey Ober, another pitcher we've seen a lot in the last few years. 31-year-old righty out of College of Charleston. He's got a 4.45 ERA and a 1.23 whip. Leads with his changeup now. It is his best pitch. Four-seam fastball at 88 to 89, plays up a little bit because of his really good extension. He's a big, tall giant of a man. Slider, sweeper, sinker, and curveball. He doesn't strike many out at 17.2, but he doesn't allow a ton of hard contact and really keeps the lefties at bay with the good changeup. So hopefully our best pitcher in Michael Wacha versus a guy that we just saw the other day in Bailey Ober as well, we can get a win in this Twins series. Maybe play the role of spoiler. Keep them out of the playoffs.
Yes. After that, the Cubs will come to town. The Cubs are 64-49. That's good for second in the NL Central, 5.5 behind the Brewers, who are awesome. The Cubs are a real good team too, though, and they've added some new stuff at the trade deadline. This may not include their numbers for today because I did these last night, and so we'll see if these might have changed only very slightly. As an offense, the Cubs can really swing it. They have a 110 weighted runs created plus as a team. That's third in Major League Baseball, led by the guy who I think is going to win the National League MVP. That's Pete Crow Armstrong, who's got a 151 weighted runs created plus. They have Seiya Suzuki, slugging right-hander from Japan, with a 131 weighted runs created plus as well. And then Michael Busch is doing quite well for them with a 111 weighted runs created plus. It's a deep as hell lineup, though. They got 11 guys with rated run created plus over 100. Think about that. 11. That's really good. On the pitching side, they're not quite as good. They have a 4.11 ERA. That's 12th in Major League Baseball. But they have quite a few, what I would call like solid, good starting pitchers. A guy I really liked coming out of Japan, Shoto Imanaga, has a 3.67 ERA. Matthew Boyd has a 3.41 ERA, though he hasn't started for all this year. And then Javier Assad has a 3.75. So they have a solid rotation as well. The Cubs are quite a solid team, and they've added here at the deadline, so we'll see if they're even stronger. The Royals, I think, would do well to get what? If they can go 3-3, it'd be a damn miracle, honestly. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy, who don't just offer the best in physical therapy in the Kansas City Metro. They also offer the best in summer speed and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to make big gains.
It's better than sitting around eating Twinkies and Ho-Hos all summer. Trust me, I've tried that program. It does not work.
It doesn't work for anything other than developing diabetes. If your child is interested in getting the most out of their athleticism, check out videos of All-In's summer speed and conditioning programs on their Instagram feed. And of course, All-In always offers the best in physical therapy for post-surgery and athletic injury patients. They offer a personalized one-on-one experience to meet your specific therapy goals.
Specifically, I want to be able to jump over a Buick. Hopefully they can get me to that kind of place.
You know, I think jumping over a kiddie pool is where you should start, because I think that's where you're at right now. Learn more about how All-In Physical Therapy can get your body on track at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give these very nice people a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. All-In Physical Therapy, your recovery goals are their number one priority. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just a Bit Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. We do lots of stuff. I'm coming, I'm going, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Got lots going on. Mike, you are also a man about town. What has been going on in your week your life this last week?
I'm gonna actually leave this up to you, because I thought of one while we were doing the show. Something to talk about. Should we talk about what we did on Friday last week?
I don't remember what we did on Friday.
We went to Kaufman on Friday.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Should I talk about that?
No, I want you to talk about this instead.
Okay. So my Just a Bit Outside, I think, is something that a lot of us are currently maybe delving back into, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. Getting back into the swing of football season, as baseball season is now so depressing. And it's weird because as Chiefs fans, Mark and I have been Chiefs fans our entire lives, just like we've been Royals fans our entire lives.
I was a Cubs fan for many years, to be clear.
Well, but you also like the Royals. I mean, yeah, you were a kid, so you just like the Cubs because Mark Grace was on the team and he was in the movie Taking Care of Business. That's why. You were a Cubs fan.
And the games were on TV after school.
That's true. They were on WGN every day. But I'm talking about the Chiefs here. Just what a weird kind of offseason it is if you've only been a Chiefs fan for like the last 7 or 8 years. It's got to be a really weird offseason, because I was listening to a podcast from the great Mina Kimes. I absolutely love her as an NFL analyst. She does great, smart things, but she has a podcast as well. And she was going through like doing a ranking thing with Scott Van Pelt, and they were kind of going back and forth. I was watching it while I was at the gym, or listening to it while I was at the gym. And, they didn't bring up the Chiefs' name in this power ranking until like 15-ish, like somewhere in that 13 to 15 range. How long has it been since the Chiefs were thought of as a middle of the pack team in the NFL? That's kind of what they're going through. And then I understand and how the season went last year, and the injury to Patrick Mahomes, and the aging Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, and the completely like revamp of the defensive backfield. But I'm excited for this season in that I'm excited for some of the young players that they have. I'm excited for Kenneth Walker at running back. I'm really excited for Cyrus Allen, the receiver. Mark and I have talked about him a lot. I'm just really excited about just the opportunity they have to be a new team, kind of the new look Chiefs, to see where they can go and see if they can kind of take a division in the AFC West that a lot of people think isn't theirs for the taking anymore. I mean, I think they're still the betting favorite to win the AFC West, which is wild to me. But a lot of people are talking about them like, hey, the Broncos are going to be better, or the Chargers are going to be better. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that if the Chiefs come out and really show this and even make a deep run in the playoffs, it just says something about the organization, the head coach, and those 3 players specifically. The Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones era, I think, is well defined already, but I think it goes to a next level if they really make a run this year.
Yes, I'm very excited for Chiefs season as well. First preseason game coming up before too long. Lots of guys I want to look at. Mike and I are analytic in the way we watch football as well. We just don't talk about it on a podcast, which is fine. There are a bajillion Chiefs podcasts out there. Go find one that's interesting to listen to. But yeah, I'm very excited for it as well. The thing Mike didn't talk about was that we went to Kaufman for like this golfing thing, and it was fun.
Upper deck golf. It was pretty fun.
Upper deck golf. It was pretty fun. It was very fun. We had a good time. I'm talking about a board game that my partner and I recently just got back into. I don't know how we even got it. We got some sort of like traditional like package of the game Sorry. Do you remember the game Sorry?
Say traditional. Do you mean like an original?
No, it's like some vintage box, but it's like they were reissue, kind of like we reissued Sorry in like the traditional little tin or whatever it's in. And so it looks kind of like basic old Sorry. And it's wonderful. Like, I don't even know how we ended up doing this, but we just found it the other day. I don't even remember getting it, but we got it.
Is that the one with the pop-up bubble?
No, that is, I forget. Or maybe it was. I don't think it is, honestly. This one has cards, or at least the traditional version we have has cards, right? And the cards tell you what to do with your little men, right? That go around the board. And sometimes you can like take the other person's man and put him back in the little safe zone. He has to start all over again, right? The whole goal is to essentially circle the entire board and take your little men into this little safe area, basically. It's a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun playing it. The cool thing about it is you can play it while you're doing other things. So we do a thing called Full Album Friday, where we sort of play full albums. like we listen to entire albums of things, right? And so this last weekend, we would put on like a full album. I forget which one she put on. I put on a Miles Davis album. Honestly,
weird.
It was great. I loved it. And we played Sorry, and it was a lot of fun. So it's one of those things that's real low stakes, but her and I struggle to find games that we can play that are just good with 2 players, right? And Sorry is one of them. And so, I highly recommend go grab yourself some of those traditional games you played when you were a kid. They're still very fun, it turns out. So that's great. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again next week with more board game reviews and comments about Mike being a screenwriter and other things, maybe some baseball stuff sprinkled in there too. Till then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.